The Great Hall of Nexus Prime had stood for 10,000 years. It was a massive chamber carved from living crystal, and its walls glowed with the soft light of 100 different species who had gathered to rule the galaxy. Representatives from 47 worlds sat in their designated sections, each one believing themselves to be among the most important beings in existence. They had built empires, conquered systems, and shaped the destiny of countless civilizations. And today they were here to discuss the smallest matter imaginable. Earth Ambassador Voreth of the Selenari Dominion rose from his seat and moved toward the central platform. His body was tall and thin, almost like a strand of silver wire stretched into the shape of a person. His skin shimmered with patterns of blue light that changed with his emotions. And right now, those patterns showed nothing but contempt. He had lived for 300 years and had seen species rise and fall like waves upon a shore. The humans were just another wave, and a small one at that. Fellow council members, Voreth began, his voice echoing through the translation matrices that allowed every species to understand every other. We have received a formal request from the planet known as Earth. The dominant species there, who call themselves humans, wish to join our great assembly. A ripple of amusement passed through the chamber. The Kathrani delegation, a group of massive insectoid creatures with gleaming black shells, clicked their mandibles in what passed for laughter among their kind. The Vorn Collective, a hive-minded species that spoke with a single voice through dozens of bodies, hummed with dismissive harmonics. Voreth raised one slender hand for silence. I have studied the humans extensively. They evolved on a small rocky world orbiting an unremarkable yellow star in the outer reaches of the Orion Arm. They have only recently discovered faster-than-light travel, and their understanding of it is crude at best. Their military vessels are few in number and weak in armament. Their population, while large by their own standards, is insignificant compared to any established galactic power. He paused to let his words sink in. In short, they are primitive, fragile, and utterly beneath our concern. Scrix, the senior representative of the Kathrani Dominion, rose to speak. He towered over most other species in the room, his forearms folded across his armored chest. What do these humans want from us? Full membership, Voreth replied. Voting rights. Military protection under Article 7. Access to trade routes and technology exchanges. The chamber erupted in noise. Dozens of species spoke at once, their voices overlapping in a chaos of disbelief and mockery. The idea that such a young and weak species would dare to ask for equality was almost offensive. Voreth waited for silence before continuing. I propose we offer them provisional observer status. No voting rights. No military protections. They will be permitted to watch our proceedings and learn from their betters. Additionally, they will pay tribute to the Selenari Dominion for safe passage through our territory. This is more than generous. The vote was quick and unanimous. 47 species agreed that Earth deserved nothing more than a seat in the corner and a bill to pay. 12,000 light-years away, Commander Daniel Hayes received the Council's decision in his office at United Earth Command Headquarters. The building was located in Geneva, a city that had survived centuries of human conflict and had emerged as the center of Earth's unified government. Hayes had served that government for 30 years, first as a soldier and then as an administrator. He was 53 years old, with gray hair and tired eyes that had read too many reports about things that kept him awake at night. Dr. Laura Mitchell stood beside his desk, reading the transmission on her tablet. She was the lead xenodiplomat for United Earth, which meant she had spent the last 5 years trying to establish peaceful contact with alien civilizations. She was younger than Hayes, maybe 40, with sharp features and a mind that could cut through political nonsense like a laser through paper. Provisional observer status, she said, her voice flat. No voting rights. No military protections. And we have to pay the Selenari just for the privilege of existing near their space. Hayes leaned back in his chair and stared at the ceiling. They think we are nothing. They have not seen our history, Laura replied. They do not know what we have survived. Ice ages, plagues, 2 world wars, nuclear weapons pointed at ourselves. We nearly destroyed our own planet 3 times over, and we are still here. They do not care about history. They care about power. Hayes stood and walked to the window. Outside, the city of Geneva hummed with life. Millions of people going about their daily business, raising families, building futures. None of them knew that the galaxy had just declared them worthless. What do we do now? Laura asked. Hayes was quiet for a long moment. We do what we have always done. We survive. We grow stronger. And we prove them wrong. 3 months later, humanity launched its first interstellar colony ship. The vessel was called the Pioneer, and it carried 12,000 settlers toward a planet designated Kepler 442b. Earth scientists had studied the world for years and determined it was suitable for human life. The colonists planned to build a new home there, a place they would call New Providence. Captain Samuel Torres commanded the mission. He was a former naval officer with 20 years of experience and a reputation for staying calm when everything around him was falling apart. His wife Maria served as the colony's chief administrator. They had met during the water crisis of 2157 and had been partners in everything ever since. The journey took 4 months. When the Pioneer finally dropped out of hyperspace and New Providence appeared on the view screens, Samuel felt something he had not felt in years. Hope. It was beautiful, Maria whispered beside him. The planet hung against the darkness of space like a blue and green jewel. Clouds swirled across its surface. Oceans glittered in the light of its sun. It looked almost exactly like Earth, like a second chance waiting to be claimed. Samuel took his wife's hand. Let us build something worth keeping. And the colonists landed and began construction immediately. Prefabricated structures rose from the alien soil. Farms were planted. Children played in fields of strange purple grass while their parents worked to create a future among the stars. Back on Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council barely noticed. A few minor species filed reports about the human expansion, but the elder races dismissed the news without discussion. Earth was small. Earth was fragile. Earth was beneath their attention. Ambassador Varath did not even bother to read the intelligence briefings. The humans would establish their little colony, struggle for a few decades, and eventually fade into irrelevance like so many species before them. It was the natural order of things. He could not have been more wrong. In the depths of Kathrani space, Skrik studied maps of human territory with growing irritation. The system they had colonized, Kepler 442, lay on the edge of a region that Kathrani had claimed centuries ago. They had never settled it themselves. They had never even visited it. But it was theirs by right of declaration, and the humans had taken it without permission. Insects, Skrik muttered, using the worst insult his species knew, crawling across space as if they own it. He began to make plans. The humans needed to learn their place in the galaxy, and the Kathrani were very good teachers. On New Providence, the colonists worked and laughed and dreamed of the future. They did not know that war was coming. They did not know that the galaxy was about to try to crush them. But they would learn, and so would everyone else. The morning sky above New Providence was painted in shades of orange and pink when the alarms began to scream. Samuel Torres was eating breakfast with Maria in their small home. Near the colony's center, when the emergency alert cut through the peaceful silence, he dropped his fork and was on his feet before the first siren finished its wail. Command center, he said to Maria. Now. They ran through streets that were already filling with confused colonists. Children cried while their parents looked to the sky with fear in their eyes. Nobody knew what was happening. Everyone could feel that something was terribly wrong. The command center was a reinforced building at the heart of the settlement. Samuel burst through the doors and found his officers already gathered around the main display screen. What he saw there made his blood turn cold. 12 ships hung in orbit above their world. They were massive vessels, each one covered in black armor and bristling with weapons that glowed with deadly energy. Samuel had studied alien ship designs during his training. He recognized these immediately. Kathrani warships. When did they arrive? He demanded. Beth Cooper, his young communications officer, looked up from her console with pale cheeks. They dropped out of hyperspace 7 minutes ago, sir. They came out of nowhere. Have they made contact? Yes, sir. Beth swallowed hard. They are demanding that we evacuate the planet within 6 hours. They say this system belongs to the Kathrani Dominion and that we are trespassing on their territory. Samuel stared at the screen. 6 hours. It had taken them weeks to build this colony. They had farms now, homes, schools. 8,000 children lived on this world. There was no way to evacuate 12,000 people in 6 hours. And even if they could, the Pioneer was not equipped for combat. The Kathrani would destroy them the moment they tried to leave. "Get me a line to Earth," Samuel ordered. Beth's fingers flew across her console. Then she shook her head. "Sir, I cannot establish a connection. The Kathrani are jamming all subspace frequencies. We are completely cut off." Maria stepped forward and took Samuel's hand. Her grip was strong and steady, the same grip that had held him together through every crisis they had faced. "What do we do?" Samuel looked at his wife, then at his officers, then at the image of those warships floating above his colony like birds of prey. He thought about the children playing in the purple grass. He thought about the families who had trusted him to lead them to a better life. "We buy time," he said. "Beth, keep trying to break through the jamming. Kevin, I want all security personnel armed and positioned around the civilian shelters. Everyone else, start moving people underground. Women and children first." Kevin Ross, the colony's security chief, nodded sharply. He was a big man with hands like shovels and a heart that would not quit. "What about the Kathrani? Do we try to negotiate?" "I will handle that," Samuel replied. "Just get our people safe." The evacuation began immediately. Colonists streamed toward the underground bunkers that had been built for emergencies. Parents carried crying children. The elderly were helped along by younger hands. Everyone moved with fear in their hearts but determination in their steps. Samuel stood alone in the command center and opened a channel to the Kathrani fleet. The face that appeared on his screen was something out of a nightmare. Scrix, the Kathrani commander, had eyes like polished stones and mandibles that clicked together as he spoke. "Human," Scrix said, "you have received our demands. Why are you still on our world?" "This world belongs to no one," Samuel replied, keeping his voice calm. "We found it empty. We claimed it fairly under galactic law." "Galactic law." Scrix made a sound that might have been laughter. "You are not part of the galactic community. You are vermin. You have no rights here. We have the right to exist. That right is about to expire." The transmission ended. Samuel stood in the sudden silence for a moment, then turned to Beth. "How long until they are in weapons range?" "4 hours, sir." 4 hours. It was not enough time. It would never be enough time. The first shots came 3 hours and 47 minutes later. The Kathrani did not wait for their deadline to pass. They did not give any warning. Particle beams simply lanced down from the sky and began cutting through the colony like hot knives through butter. Buildings exploded. Streets became rivers of fire. The screams of the dying mixed with the thunder of destruction. Samuel was in the bunker with Maria when the bombardment started. The ground shook beneath their feet. Dust fell from the ceiling. Somewhere above them, the world they had built was being erased. "How many made it underground?" Maria asked. Samuel checked his tablet with trembling fingers. 8,000 confirmed. Maybe more? And the others? He could not answer that question. He did not want to know. The bombardment lasted for 2 hours. When it finally stopped, Samuel led a small team to the surface to assess the damage. What they found broke his heart. The colony was gone. Every building had been reduced to smoking rubble. The farms were ash. The schools were craters. Bodies lay everywhere, burned beyond recognition or crushed beneath fallen structures. 2,000 colonists had died in the first hour alone. By the time the Kathrani finished, the number had risen to 4,000. On Nexus Prime, Ambassador Voreth received news of the attack with something that looked almost like satisfaction. The humans had overreached, and now they were paying the price. It was unfortunate that so many had died, but that was what happened when primitive species, tried to play in the sandbox of their betters. He expected Earth to send a desperate plea for help. He expected begging and bargaining and promises to behave. What he received instead was something very different. The transmission from United. Earth's command arrived 6 hours after the attack. Commander Daniel Hayes appeared on the council screens, and there was no fear in his eyes. There was only cold fury. "This is Commander Daniel Hayes, speaking on behalf of United Earth," he said. "The Kathrani Dominion has committed an unprovoked act of war against humanity. 4,000 innocent civilians are dead. We formally invoke Article 7 of the Charter of Civilized Species and request immediate Council intervention to protect our remaining colonists." Roth brought the matter before the full council with barely hidden amusement. "The humans wish us to save them," he announced. "They invoke Article 7 as if they were one of us." Scrix appeared on the chamber's main display, his mandibles clicking with contempt. "The system belongs to the Kathrani. It has always belonged to us. The humans were warned. We were within our rights to remove them." "No, it says the council," Vorath asked. The vote took less than 5 minutes. 46 species voted against intervention. Not a single voice spoke in humanity's defense. Dr. Laura Mitchell received the council's decision in Geneva. Her hands did not shake as she read it. Her voice did not waver as she delivered the news to Commander Hayes. "They have abandoned us," she said. 46-0. "The council will not lift a finger to help us." Hayes stood at the window of his office, looking out at the city he had sworn to protect. 4,000 people were dead on New Providence. 8,000 more were trapped in bunkers, waiting for rescue that might never come. And the galaxy had just told humanity that their lives did not matter. "They think we will beg," he said quietly. "They think we will crawl to them and accept whatever scraps they offer." "Will we?" Laura asked. Hayes turned to face her. There was something in his eyes that she had never seen before. Something hard and cold and absolutely unbreakable. "Oh," he said. "We will make them regret this. Activate Protocol Omega. It is time to show the galaxy what happens when you corner humanity." Laura nodded and reached for her communicator. Across Earth, in secret facilities hidden beneath mountains and oceans, machines began to wake. Ships that had been built in silence powered up their engines. Soldiers who had trained for years received their orders. The galaxy had betrayed humanity. Now humanity would answer. The Kathrani expected tears. They expected desperate messages from Earth begging for mercy. They expected the humans to finally understand their place in the galaxy and accept it with bowed heads and broken spirits. What they got instead was silence. For 3 weeks after the attack on New Providence, Earth said nothing. No diplomatic protests. No appeals to the Council. No threats or promises or pleas. The humans simply went quiet. And that silence made some members of the Galactic Council nervous. Ambassador Vorath dismissed their concerns with a wave of his slender hand. "They are grieving," he said. "They are realizing how foolish they were to challenge their betters. Give them time, and they will come crawling back to accept whatever terms we offer." Scrix agreed. The Kathrani commander had returned to his homeworld as a hero. His people celebrated him for putting the humans in their place. He received medals and honors and the admiration of millions. He spent his evenings drinking expensive wine and planning which human territory to claim next. Neither of them noticed the ships, deep in the secret shipyards of Earth's moon. Vessels had been under construction for years. They were not the crude freighters and basic patrol craft that the Council had observed. These were warships, built with technology that humanity had developed in secret, while the galaxy looked the other way. The elder races had assumed that humans were copying their designs, struggling to catch up with civilizations that had mastered space travel millennia ago. They were wrong. Humans did not copy. Humans innovated. They looked at alien technology and asked questions that no one else thought to ask. They combined ideas in ways that seemed impossible. They built things that should not have worked but somehow did. Admiral Patricia Lane stood on the bridge of the carrier, Resilience, and watched her fleet assemble. She was 62 years old with silver hair and eyes that had seen more battles than she cared to remember. She had fought in the Mars Uprising. She had commanded the defense of the Jupiter stations during the corporate wars. She had buried friends and enemies alike, and she had never once backed down from a fight. Today she commanded 18 ships. The Kathrani had 47 warships guarding the approach to their territory. By any reasonable calculation, this was suicide. Patricia Lane had never been reasonable. "Admiral, all ships report ready," said Lieutenant Christopher Davis, her tactical officer. He was young, barely 30, but he had a mind like a supercomputer and nerves made of steel. "Time to jump?" 30 seconds. Patricia opened a channel to her fleet. "All hands. This is Admiral Lane. 3 weeks ago, the Kathrani murdered 4,000 of our people. Men, women, and children who did nothing wrong except dream of a better future. The Galactic Council turned their backs on us. They told us that human lives do not matter." She paused to let her words sink in. "Today we prove them wrong. Today we show the galaxy what happens when you hurt our family. Every one of you knows the risks. Every one of you volunteered anyway. I am proud to serve with you. Now, let us go teach these bugs a lesson they will never forget." The fleet jumped. They emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Kathrani territory, right in front of the defensive fleet that was supposed to protect the Empire from invasion. 47 warships turned their weapons toward the human vessels. Commanders shouted orders. Targeting systems locked on. The Kathrani outnumbered the humans nearly 3-1. Their ships were larger, more heavily armed, battle-tested across centuries of conquest. They should have won easily. They never got the chance. "Launch the swarm," Patricia ordered. The Resilience opened its hangar bays, and thousands of objects poured into space. They were tiny things, no bigger than a human fist, moving so fast that the Kathrani sensors could barely track them. The alien point defense systems were designed to shoot down missiles and fighters. They were not designed for this. The drones did not carry explosives. They carried electromagnetic pulse charges. They hit the Kathrani fleet like a wave of invisible lightning. Ships that had been preparing to fire suddenly went dark. Engines died. Weapon systems failed. Life support flickered and shut down. In the space of 5 minutes, half the Kathrani fleet was reduced to drifting metal coffins. Scrix received the news on his homeworld and felt something he had not felt in decades. Fear? How is this possible? He demanded. The humans are primitives. They cannot have technology like this. His advisors had no answer. They could only watch as the battle unfolded on their screens. Admiral Lane opened a channel to the remaining Kathrani ships. "Kathrani Fleet, this is Admiral Patricia Lane of the United Earth Navy. You will stand down immediately and surrender your vessels. You have 5 minutes to comply. If you do not, we will destroy what remains of your forces." The response came not from the fleet commander, but from Scrix himself, broadcasting from the safety of his palace. "You dare threaten the Kathrani Dominion?" His mandibles clicked with rage. "We are a founding member of the Galactic Council. We have crushed species far greater than yours. You are nothing. You are insects." Patricia smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Funny," she said. "That is exactly what we are about to say about you. Your 5 minutes are ticking." The Kathrani did not surrender. Pride would not let them. The remaining ships charged forward with weapons blazing, determined to prove that the great Kathrani Dominion could not be beaten by a bunch of hairless apes from a backwater world. The battle lasted 11 minutes. Human ships danced through the Kathrani formation like ghosts. Their weapons punched through alien armor with surgical precision. Their shields held against attacks that should have torn them apart. Every time the Kathrani thought they had a target locked, the humans were already somewhere else. When it was over, 39 Kathrani warships had been destroyed or disabled. The United Earth Navy had lost 2 vessels. Patricia Lane looked at the wreckage floating in space and felt no joy. This was not victory. This was necessity. 4,000 people had died on New Providence, and nothing would bring them back. But maybe, just maybe, this would prevent more deaths in the future. "Set course for New Providence," she ordered. "Our people are waiting." On the colony world, Samuel Torres stood among the ruins of everything he had built. The survivors had been living in the underground bunkers for 3 weeks. They were running low on food and water. Hope was even harder to find. Then Beth Cooper came running toward him with tears streaming down her face. Ships. Human ships. They broke through the jamming. They are coming for us. Samuel looked up at the sky. He saw lights moving among the stars, growing brighter with each passing second. Drop pods began to fall, carrying Marines and medical supplies and food. Maria found him standing in the ashes of their home, watching the rescue unfold. She wrapped her arms around him and pressed her face against his shoulder. "They came for us," she whispered. Samuel held his wife and watched the pods descend through the smoke-filled sky. 4,000 people had died, but 8,000 had survived, and Earth had not abandoned them. He said quietly. "They came for us." Across the galaxy, the news spread like wildfire. The humans had won. The primitive, fragile, worthless humans had defeated a founding member of the Galactic Council in open combat. Everything the elder races thought they knew about Earth was wrong, and this was only the beginning. The Great Hall of Nexus Prime had never been so quiet. Representatives from 47 species sat in their seats and stared at the images floating above the central platform. Kathrani warships, the pride of one of the galaxy's oldest civilizations, drifted through space as broken hulks. Some were split in half. Others were dark and lifeless, their crews frozen in the void. The mighty fleet that was supposed to crush humanity had been destroyed in less than 15 minutes. Ambassador. Varoth stood at the podium and tried to find words. For the first time in 300 years, he had none. S.K. Rix appeared on the main display, broadcasting from his palace on the Kathrani homeworld. His mandibles trembled with barely controlled rage. "This is an outrage," he declared. "The humans have committed an act of war against a founding member of this council. They must be punished. Their fleet must be dismantled. Their colonies must be placed under council administration. Their leaders must be executed for their crimes." Vorath finally found his voice. "The representative from the Kathrani Dominion is correct. The humans have gone too far. They have upset the balance of power that has kept this galaxy stable for millennia. We must act decisively before they become an even greater threat." He expected the usual chorus of agreement. He expected the council to vote unanimously, just as they had voted to abandon humanity 3 weeks ago. What he got instead was silence. The Vorn Collective spoke first. Their voice came from dozens of bodies spread throughout their section of the chamber, all speaking in perfect unison. "We find it interesting that the Kathrani speak of punishment for aggression. Were they not the ones who attacked an unarmed colony without provocation? Were they not the ones who murdered 4,000 civilians, including children?" Scrix's image flickered with fury. "The humans were trespassing on our territory. We had every right to remove them." "You had a claim on paper," the Vorn replied. "A claim you never enforced, never settled, never even visited in 500 years. The humans found an empty world and built a home there. You responded with genocide." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Several species began talking among themselves, their translators struggling to keep up with the overlapping conversations. A new voice cut through the noise. It belonged to Ambassador Threx of the Morvani Federation, a species of tall gray beings with 4 eyes and a reputation for careful neutrality. The Vorn raise a valid point. The humans requested council protection under Article 7. We denied them. They were then attacked by a council member and suffered tremendous losses. Their military response, while surprising, was not unprovoked. "Are you defending them?" Vorath demanded. "Are you taking the side of primitives against your own allies?" "We are observing facts," Threx replied calmly. "Something this council has failed to do regarding Earth for quite some time." Before the argument could continue, the chamber's communication system chimed with an incoming transmission. The signal was coming from Earth. It carried the highest priority codes. Dr. Laura Mitchell appeared on the central display. She stood in a simple room with the flag of United Earth behind her. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with something that made several council members shift uncomfortably in their seats. "Members of the Galactic Council," she began. 3 weeks ago, the Kathrani Dominion attacked our colony on New Providence without warning or provocation. 4,000 human beings were killed. We appealed to this council for protection, as was our right under Article 7 of your own charter. You refused. She let those words hang in the air. We did not come to the stars looking for war. We came seeking partnership and cooperation. We wanted to join the community of civilized species and contribute to the greater good of the galaxy. Instead, we found arrogance, contempt, and betrayal. Vorath tried to interrupt, but Laura continued as if he did not exist. Humanity will no longer seek membership in your council. We will chart our own course among the stars. We will build our own alliances with species who value honor and justice over power and politics. But let me be absolutely clear about one thing. She leaned forward, and every being in the chamber felt the weight of her gaze. Earth may be small. Our world may seem fragile to you. But we have survived ice ages and plagues. We have survived wars that killed millions of our own kind. We have faced extinction more times than you can imagine. And we are still here. We do not give up. We do not surrender. And we protect our own. Her voice hardened into steel. Any species that threatens human lives, human colonies, or human interests will face the full consequences of that choice. This is not a threat. It is a promise. You had your chance to be our friends. You chose to be our enemies. Now you will live with that decision. The transmission ended. The chamber erupted into chaos. Species that had dismissed Earth for centuries were now demanding intelligence reports and military assessments. Delegations huddled together, whispering about alliances and trade agreements. The neat order of the council had shattered in a matter of minutes. Vorath tried to restore calm, but no one was listening to him anymore. On the Kathrani homeworld, Scrix received even worse news. A second human fleet had appeared at Kethra 7, the industrial moon that produced 60% of all Kathrani military equipment. The humans had not fired a single shot. They had simply established a blockade around the moon and transmitted a single message. You killed our people. Now you will negotiate or you will starve. Scrix stared at the report in disbelief. The humans were not satisfied with defeating his fleet. They were striking at the heart of Kathrani power. Without Kethra 7, the Dominion could not build new ships. Without new ships, they could not defend their territory. The humans had found their weakness and exploited it with surgical precision. How do they know? He whispered. How do they know where to strike? His advisors had no answers. They only knew that the species they had dismissed as primitives was now holding a knife to their throat. The blockade lasted for 6 weeks. During that time, the Kathrani government began to crumble. Generals blamed politicians. Politicians blamed generals. The people blamed everyone. Riots broke out in major cities. Military commanders started talking about surrender. Scrix refused to accept defeat. He gave speeches about Kathrani pride and honor. He promised that victory was still possible. He ordered his remaining forces to break the blockade at any cost. They failed. 3 more fleets were destroyed trying to reach Kethru 7. Each defeat made the situation worse. Each defeat brought the Dominion closer to collapse. In the end, it was not the humans who killed Scrix. It was his own people. A group of military officers stormed his palace in the middle of the night. They dragged him from his bed and executed him in the courtyard, where he had received his medals just weeks before. The new Kathrani government sued for peace immediately. They agreed to pay reparations to the survivors of New Providence. They agreed to recognize human territory. They agreed to never again threaten Earth or any of its colonies. Commander Daniel Hayes received the news of the treaty in his office in Geneva. Dr. Laura Epsel stood beside him, holding the document that ended the war. "It is over," she said. Hayes shook his head slowly. "No, this is just the beginning. The Council knows what we can do now. Some of them will want to be our friends. Others will want to destroy us before we grow any stronger." He looked out the window at the stars beginning to appear in the evening sky. "We need to be ready for both."